Hello students, I hope you're doing well. I am Maggie, your instructor for environmental science. In this video, I'm going to take you through the course and help you to see the cadence in the work we're doing and schedule your time appropriately. You can work ahead in this class, but do not fall behind. So having a rich understanding of how things work will help you succeed. Now, I already advanced this, but when you first enter the class, you see a pop-up window with some opening advice, and you have to click through that, and then it will go away. You will also have a pop-up that asks you to verify your address for your lab kit. It is very important that you do this, not that you do not ignore it, because your lab kit your lab kit is shipped after the drop date, and if you haven't resolved your address by then, it will just delay the process. Okay, so when you enter the class, you will be on the home page and you'll see announcements. And scroll down through the announcements because I potentially made more than one announcement since you were back, and those are usually pressing pieces of information and reminders. So this is the course home. Now, you want to interact with the course using the content. And so you'll see here on the left, there's a table of contents. This is a book, right? So you want to start at the beginning. And once you start reading the book, the pages are held for you with these arrows in the top. So on the first day of class, get a cup of coffee and click through and get to know the course, okay? And when you get to the end of a module in the table of contents, there's just no more arrows. So it'll push you back out to the table of contents like this. And more, read the policies and support and resources. And then the next link you see is your textbook, right? And so click through these and get a sense for this is where you read and this is where you do your quizzes. And so I'm not going to click in there because it looks different for me as a pretend student making this video. But do click through the e-text, get yourself into that environment. Now we will also have labs, and here in the lab folder, you'll find the lab verification and authentication. So once you get your kit, you have to submit a photo of yourself holding your kit, and that will open the lab drop boxes. So that's what you find in this very first link. And then that's how you will open your drop boxes. In the environmental 1111 labs and report templates link, you're going to find a zipped folder of all your labs and report templates. I also put this in the announcements, and I urge you to just get this stuff on your computer. Don't leave it in the classroom. Here, take a look. And I've altered these to make it a little simpler. Let me show you what they look like. So when you download this zipped folder to your computer, you're going to find that there are 2 files per lab. The PDF file is the lab instructions, the explanations, and then the Word documents are the documents that you'll write into and submit in the classroom. So the first one is slightly different than all the rest. So let's take a look here. In this lab, you are going to write a full lab report. And so you have 2 weeks to complete this. You're going to share your lab data in discussion to expedite and make more efficient the process. And you'll go through these lab report assistants, you'll answer all the questions. And then at the end of this very first lab, you'll be asked to write a full lab report. And this is your template for that. But then after the first lab report, oh, I will also mention that the rubric is different for this lab. To reflect this template. But then once we get into all the other labs, you will be following this. It's not a full lab report, really. There are just a couple of headers that you need to include, and they tie to the rubric. So if you look at the rubric in the submission area, you'll see how these connect. So you need to have a purpose and a question. You need to have a hypothesis. These are criteria in the lab rubric. The data tables and analysis questions, these come from all of this down here, right? The questions and the tables that you encounter as you're going through the labs. Then the claim, evidence, and reflection are pieces that you write, but these right here can just be a couple of sentences. It's not a full lab report. This is where you kind of explain why. Why did we do this? And how did we arrive at these conclusions? And the evidence, of course, is going to be driven by these tables, graphs, and figures of the data that you collect. And then finally, in some labs, there will be a requirement that you submit a photo. And so that's another piece of this puzzle. Put all of this stuff into one document. Do not submit multiple documents, please, because I have many students and it's very helpful to me to be able to open one document per student. That's not the most eloquent and compelling reason, but that is the reason. Just help me to also be efficient as you two are being efficient. And then, you'll be asked to take photos of yourself to authenticate your work. And here's a list of which labs and what photos should be taken. Okay, so let's go back to the table of contents. Now, you will find information about me and the schedule here. And I skipped this, sorry about that. Here in the course schedule, print this, put it on your refrigerator. Okay, these are all the deadlines for the course. The weeks run from Tuesdays to Mondays. All the deadlines are on Mondays, but there are Wednesday discussions deadlines that are represented here, right? First post May 31st, but they are not represented in the calendar, which I'll show you in a second. So it's important that you take a look at this. I've given you 2 weeks to submit the first 2 labs, but after we pass module 1, there's a lab due every Monday, and there's a quiz due every other Monday, okay? And you have a midterm and a final. The discussions are always going on, and you have to make 1 first post and 3 reply posts, okay? So let's go back to the table of contents. Now we've got kind of all the reference material covered. When you enter the module, you'll want to read it like a book, like we were just talking about. Use these arrows, get your feet under you, figure out what's going on. And when you get to the discussions, right, I like to right click and say open link in new tab. And that just opens the assignment in another tab, but keeps my course book open. So the first thing to do is to introduce yourselves in the classroom. And the discussions look like this. And you need to start an original thread and make reply posts to me or your peers every single week of the semester. Okay? And then we also, as mentioned, have labs and quizzes in every module. So when you click through here, right, when you're in the module reading, this is just going to open the submission area. This is not actually going to open the information about the lab. Remember, the information about the lab is here in the lab manual, and what you submit is also in here. And so when you click on this, all you're doing is opening the submission area. And I'll show you where that is in just a second. And so we're back in module 2 and we've explored the discussions in the labs. And then there's the reading, right? So the chapter reading questions are the quizzes, and these are multiple choice, and the book is right here, Introduction to Mastering Environmental Science. And then when you click on the quiz, you get pushed out into the textbook environment. And so here you'll see that the deadlines are repeated for your ease and comfort, but they are also in that schedule that I just showed you. Okay, so those are all the types of assignments, and you should read the course like a book. Read it like a book by going into content, Assignments here is where all the labs are. So you can click through the course book, but you can also click on assignment if you're ready to submit and just get right to that same page we were just looking at. In the discussions link right here, again, you can access this once you have ease of how the course is working. I've got the deadlines right here in the titles, so it's real clear. And notice that the discussions close on this final deadline. If you pass this deadline, there's no making this up. But if you miss the first deadline, it's a 2-point deduction. But I want you to show up even if you're late. If you don't show up before it closes, then you've missed your opportunity. Okay, so discussions are there, and then quizzes are, you'll see, this is a useless link, right? I just wrote you a message. This is not a quiz. Attention, the quizzes are in your textbook link. And so you go back to here where you were looking at Pearson eText. And then I will note that your grades are here and everything shows as 0 until you complete it. And so I urge you to work ahead. Don't fall behind. Work hard now. Your summer's just starting. You probably have more time now than you'll have later. And so everything can be accessed ahead of time, but not after the deadlines. And then in more tools, I know students like to use this calendar feature, and it's not showing properly for me right now. Oh, yes, it is. There you go. You can see all those deadlines that are showing up in the schedule, but what you will not see are those Wednesday discussion deadlines because that's not the due date. It's just a deadline along the way. Okay, I think we have covered it. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to getting to know you in the first discussion. Please do cruise around the course and get to know it yourself. Watching this video is helpful, of course. And then the only other thing I'll say is as you go through the course, you will find my phone number. If you have questions, you are welcome to text me, but please don't ask me questions that are obviously in the course. Do your homework first. Also, I know it's summer, so if you are like working on a lab and you have a question, you might want an immediate answer because that's the time you have available. And it's fine to text me and ask me questions like that. But you can also put them in these open discussions. These always remain at the top of the discussion space. If you just want to talk about fun things going on, virtual cafe. If you have questions about the content or technical issues like how do I post a picture in the discussion or something like that. Then right here in the student introductions, we'll get started. I will note to you that you are welcome to share your data for the first lab. And so I've already started that conversation and it's up to you to continue it, okay? You're supposed to find a whole bunch of people and measure their height and arm length. But if you work together by responding to this discussion thread, each person would just have to measure a couple of people and then you can share your work and lighten each individual's workload. I hope you have a great day and I look forward to meeting you soon.